Right. Right. Our panelists. Let me do a quick introduction. Good. So today I am, David, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity as well. Let me not forget you. My apologies. Right. So getting to the meat of things, I would like to introduce Miss Desiree Taylor, Jamaica Minister of Policy. Just a little bit about her. As leading figure representing Jamaica on the global stage, Ms. Taylor has been instrumental in shaping progressive policies that champion sustainable development, economic growth, which is quite important, and social equity. In addition to that, her journey has also been very transformative, and not only in Jamaica, but also across the region. Let me take this pleasure in warmly welcoming our esteemed guest, Minister Desiree Taylor, to the stage. Thank you. Kindly have a seat. And next, ladies and gentlemen, I am quite honored to introduce Dr. Keith Nurse, the esteemed president of the College of Science and Technology and Applied Arts of Trinidad and Tobago. Dr. Nurse is a global thinker with impressive track record in academia, policy development, which is quite important, and also innovation. His expertise guided numerous region and international organizations in navigating challenges of economic diversification and transformation. He also continued to excel as a hub for empowering students, which is quite important, and fostering innovation, equipping the next generation with skills needed to thrive in a rapidly evolving world that we live in. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Nurse. Right, so I have two of my panelists, and I am quite pleased to have you here with me. Right, so when we think of the topic is the global south, the carousel of perspective. And I'm going to just take you back a little bit in time. And this morning when I landed and awaited my luggage, I said a carousel could be merry-go-round or carousel to pick up my luggage. And with the different topics that we're going to talk about, I'm going to make a selection. Because when we're on a carousel, we do pick things up, don't we? So we're going to pick up relationships. We're going to pick up people. We're also going to select opportunities that Dr. Nurse will also talk about. And also, we're going to pick up or select rather policies where Dr. Ms. Taylor will also delve into. So now, my two panels list. It's a pleasure to have you. Ms. Taylor, tell us a little bit about what your duties are as, the counselor in, the High Commission's office, if you will, just briefly.
Well, it's a two-pronged duty. First, I am the head of the Consular Affairs Department, where I interface with Jamaican nationals as well as foreign nationals that are here who wish to do business with Jamaica. So, of course, for Jamaican nationals, it's about their passports or citizenship for their children who are born here, and visas for foreign nationals who wish to travel to Jamaica or who wish to do business with Jamaica. And on the other hand, I also am responsible for continuing the development of the diaspora relationship between Jamaica and its diaspora here in the United Kingdom, as well as other countries that we're accredited to from the United Kingdom. So there are the four Nordic countries, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, and Norway, and and then of course there's the Middle East diaspora. We are also accredited to the 6 Gulf states in the Middle East, and you know them: Bahrain, UAE, Oman, Kuwait, Qatar, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, right? And then Lebanon, and then Jordan. There are Jamaicans everywhere. That's what we love to say, and it is true.
Thank you. It's the irony that you mentioned the GCC areas, and I've met a few Jamaicans with my 4 days in Bahrain, and this goes to show the cultural diplomacy, and I am grateful that you're, supporting them in that matter. So I have a question for you before I get to Dr. Nurse. How do you think the diaspora, for the Caribbean and Africa, what role can we play in ensuring that a legacy, if you will, lives on? A legacy.
Well, for Jamaica, we consider Jamaicans to be like citizens of the world, and our culture is it is well known and recognized globally, and so people gravitate towards Jamaica, and we are very happy to impart our culture to them, and also to provide space for them to also showcase their culture. We're not very partial to anyone in particular, and we encourage our diaspora to be engaging and to make sure that whatever we do, our culture impacts positively on everyone that we meet and interface with.
Okay, thanks ever so much. And how do you think with your ministry can bridge the gap between the Caribbean and Africa?
Well, we see Africa as our homeland. We are known in the Caribbean as being more African than the rest of the Caribbean, and we take pride in that. So we pride ourselves on retaining African traits in our culture, and then we have been sort of colonizing quietly Africa, because there are a lot of Jamaican communities in Africa, and what the government of Jamaica has been doing is appointing representatives, official representatives in Africa. We have around 15 honorary consuls in Africa now, and then we have 3 diplomatic missions in Africa, one in South Africa, one in Abuja, Nigeria, and one in, we actually are about to open one, so I cannot
Let the cat out of the bag.
Yes.
Divulge.
Okay. Yes.
No.
Sorry about that. That's a slip. But we really, really pride ourselves on being Afrocentric, and we are the most African population in the Caribbean as well. The English-speaking Caribbean, I should qualify that.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I think thank you. And I think it's quite important that we have the little cubicles in different areas where, the communities where we can support each other, because presence is quite important. And again, if you have Jamaicans, in areas where you don't have many support, at least they have an embassy or an office, if you will, a counselor that they can go to get the support. So thank you for that. Dr. Keith Nurse, right, if you'd be kind enough to just let us know a little bit about what you do, and then I'll ask you a few questions as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here as well. Thanks to David and his colleagues for organizing and inviting me to come and participate. I've long been doing research on the diaspora, but I also do a lot of work on trade. And so it was interesting to hear the the representative from the Nigeria's Manufacturing Association, talking about some critical issues in terms of economic diversification and so on. And I'll touch a bit on that. I do a lot of work on innovation policy as well, so I heard that topic being mentioned quite a bit. I'm the president of a College of Science, Technology and Applied Arts, and one of the things that I also do a lot of work on is on the creative economy. So for example, I'm the chairman of a film distribution company, and we've been running the Windrush Film Festival here in London for the last few years. We have several other film festivals where we are showcasing content, not just from the Caribbean. We just started something called the Cross-Continental Forum, which is to facilitate co-productions between Africa, the Caribbean, and the diasporas in North America and Europe and the Caribbean. So a short
bio of who you are. Thank you so much. So I have a question for you. How do you think we can continue to foster that dialogue within the diaspora as it relates to the opportunities in terms of investment, economic relationships?
Okay. Well, I think the word that I haven't heard yet for the morning is demographics. In fact, demographics is the elephant in the room. So if you look at the data for this century, Africa's share of the world population is going to be 40% of the world population by the end of the century. But even before that, close to 40% or more of the youth population is going to be in Africa. So if you look at what has happened in many countries, there's been a process of what we call depopulation. So Japan has, for example, been impacted by depopulation for the last 3 decades. So even with all the technology, the Japanese economy has not been growing for the last 30 years. That same malady has now impacted Europe. Europe is in a process of depopulation. Same for most of North America, but also the Caribbean as well. So the Caribbean economies, with 1 or 2 exceptions, in a depopulation phase with very aging societies and low birth rates. So it's only Africa and Central Asia among regions that are growing in terms of youth population. You need, and this is an irony, I know people talk about technology. Well, you know what? Robots don't consume anything other than electricity. You need people to grow an economy. If you don't have people, there will be little or no growth. Yeah. And so this impacts also trade and so on. So the technology by itself is not going to grow our economies. You actually need to have people. Yeah, irony of all ironies.
Yeah, absolutely, you're right. And I'm going to piggyback on that, if I may. So as it relates to the demographics, right? How do you think the skills drain with us as a people will impact our investment and more so opportunities that could be had in the Caribbean and Africa?
Okay. All right, that's a really great question.
Thank you.
So I've done some work also on what we call brain drain. Yeah. And the Caribbean has the highest brain drain rates in the world. So several Caribbean countries are exporting 70% and more of their tertiary educated population to North America and Europe and so on. We also refer to it as a talent drain. Mm-hmm. So in key sectors like in the health sector, nurses, doctors, and it's also happening in Africa, right? So you find that many of the health agencies from North America and Europe go poaching our doctors and nurses, but it's also our IT specialists. It's also our teachers and educators, and the list goes on. So many key sectors in North America and Europe cannot survive without these people we're referring to. So the key question, though, is this: how can we facilitate not just brain drain, but brain circulation, so that we view migrants as what we call trans migrants, which is where we allow for them to move their mobility We allow for diaspora direct investment. And we also allow for strategic innovation partnerships. And this is where I think that we have not been doing enough work in Africa and the Caribbean. If you look at what China has been doing, so for example, you know, they have something called the Peacock Fund, where they facilitate the top researchers and innovators to come back home. They give them $1 million US. Right. But that $1 million then converts into billions of dollars because it drives an innovation agenda and creates new trade opportunities, new forms of intellectual property, monetization, and so on. So, so one of the countries that have done fairly well is Jamaica in terms of boosting this notion of a diasporic economy and diasporic engagement. The diasporic economy in Jamaica accounts for over 20-25% of GDP. However, and this is what I say to my Jamaican friends, it is equal to, if not surpasses, tourism. But in Jamaica, there are probably about 2,000 people working on tourism in the governmental sector. And last time I checked, when I was in Jamaica, I hope I'm not not soon enough. There were, okay, if there are 100 people working on the diaspora economy directly in the government of Jamaica, that's a lot. Yeah. I suspect it's way less than that. Last time I checked, you're talking about 20, 30 people. So something that accounts for 20-25% of the GDP only has, in terms of governmental instruments and actual people employed in pushing this, very significant, very low. I mean, I could give you all the data on earnings from the remittances. It's somewhere between 14, 16, 17% of GDP. Right. It's also the earnings from telecoms, and that's important. Tourism is another 2 to 3%, if not 5%. Then there's mortgages. People particularly from the UK, send back mortgages to Jamaica. Yeah. That accounts for about 2% of GDP. And then there's diaspora bonds. And then there's exports of Jamaican patties or Jamaican beer.
All things Jamaican, yeah.
All things Jamaican.
Yeah.
So when you add all of this up, what I call the diaspora economy, it accounts, in case of Jamaica, for about 20-25%, which is the highest in the Caribbean, except possibly for Dominican Republic. Okay,
thank you so much. Do you want us to say something, Ms. Naylor? Go ahead. Okay, so I was going to just continue as it relates to the youths and the skills drain, and I'd like you to answer this question. I don't know if you have any figures from the ministry or the High Commission, but how do you think that we can change the trajectory of the skills drain for youths? Is there anything that you think we could do specifically as it relates to that? Because now they get scholarships, they go to Canada, the Western world, the global South, if you will. How is it that we can ensure that they return to their domicile and ensure that they give us the 5 years, build that particular country or island, if you will, and then support the country in terms of its economic growth, its political thoroughfare, if you will?
Well, first of all, we have embarked, we have now solidified and signed off on our official national diaspora policy. And the policy is very, very comprehensive, and it carves out a space for diasporans to meaningfully participate in Jamaica. And since 1992, we have had a returning residence program. That was the first signature initiative that we took in order to engage with our diaspora. And over the years, we have now culminated in an official diaspora policy that was signed off on by our cabinet in 2022. And we have embarked upon what we call the brain gain And so we have put incentives in place, in particular, for the diaspora to participate in our green economy, as well as other areas for development. And so right now, our big focus is on climate resilience and climate change, climate action. And so we have members of our diaspora who are now part of the program that the IOM, the International Organization for Migration, they have launched a project here in the UK, and they are targeting Jamaican diasporans, and a very famous one that people might know of, her name is Elizabeth Mullings Smith. She has been selected as a diaspora champion. The current president of our University of Technology, Dr. Kevin Brown, he was headhunted from Rolls-Royce here in the UK as well, and he's doing very great things with at the university, and he has launched a STEM program to ensure that Jamaican youth are not afraid to embrace the STEM subjects, and that is going well at the moment, and that is feeding into our climate action program. So, and there's a birthright program that was featured earlier by Tariq. There's also that to encourage the second generation and third generation people here in the UK that were born of Jamaican ancestors to go back to Jamaica and give back. And we are very, very intent on making sure that while they are being good citizens here, because we don't want them to just focus on Jamaica, but they're bi-national heritage, yes? Yeah. So Jamaica and the UK being good citizens of Jamaica and good citizens of the United Kingdom, giving back wherever their talent leads them to be for their destiny.
Good, thank you. I have one more point, and I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit. So now when you have, last one. So now when you see 524 Americans been given citizenship in Ghana recently, where land, and this is also opportunities and investment, where land you can get it for £3,000, but in Jamaica, it's millions, right? And then as a youth, you have your parents, they're going and you can go and get, being sponsored by them. How do you think, and in closing, how do you think the Jamaican government then can play a role in not having so many of the youths then? It's good that we're going back to Africa, but also how that you can retain them with the program that you have.
Like I said, we're starting out in small phases. So there's the Birthright program, which we are pushing and partnering with Grace Kennedy. There is partnering with schools in Jamaica. Young people are being encouraged to partner with schools in Jamaica. That's a very big thing. There's an education task force, and there's also a health task force. And there are persons who are interested in citizen security, because there are still some areas in Jamaica where you have a lot of violence and so on, and so there are persons who are concerned about that, to make sure that Jamaica is the place of choice, because there's a slogan for our Vision 2030 program that says that we want to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, play, and raise families and do business. So that slogan is very alive and well out there. Our national pledge also says in part that we are going to serve Jamaica with our talents to help to advance the welfare of the whole human race, and we take that very seriously. Everybody says that pledge in Jamaica, and it's also very, very popular over here and well known, and we push that constantly.
Thank you so much. So, yeah, thank you. So I just want to thank you both, Dr. Keith Durst and Ms. Desiree Taylor, in, your insight and being very insightful on the topic, the Global South. And it's not just about the geographical location or our domicile, it's just us as a people, how resilient we are, and how collaboratively we can work in making a better Caribbean and a better Africa. Thank you.